There's been a stark change in the treatment of Israel and its enemies by the new American administration. How has that been received by Israel, and what's your observations about it?
Well, you're right, Cory. I mean, there's been certainly a softening towards the Palestinian Authority and a hardening towards Israel and also towards other countries in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia. And this willingness, as you mentioned, to get back into the JCPOA nuclear deal, which is very fatally flawed. So Israel has various levels of concern. I mean, the Americans are making noises about continuing to cooperate with the Israelis and certainly continue defence funding, which is very important. But certainly in terms of the JCPOA, a nuclear-armed Iran is unequivocally an existential threat to Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu has stated on many occasions that he will not allow Iran to become nuclear armed. And obviously there are various initiatives going on to try and stop that happening. As the explosion in Natanz you mentioned, there was also a major fire there last year. There's been assassination of various Iranian nuclear scientists who are, they're not just scientists, they are also, especially Fakhrizadeh, who is the head of the program, is a very senior officer in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the main terrorist sponsoring arm of the Iranian regime. So Israel is taking initiatives, but this JCPOA is fatally flawed for a number of reasons. The main one is that it doesn't stop Iran becoming nuclear armed; it just delays it. There are loopholes enough in the inspection regime to drive a cruise missile launcher through. It doesn't pay any attention at all to Iran's other activities, other malign activities in the Middle East, like sponsoring terrorism and militia groups to try and undermine all of its neighbours, and also, kidnapping, like Kylie Moore Gilbert, for example. So the fact that the Biden administration...
Can I just raise this with you? I know there will be people watching this saying, we complain here in Australia when the Chinese probe our national security defences through cyber attacks, and yet we're now defending, or I'm defending, and quite happy to do so, any actions by Mossad against Iran. The key difference here is Iran has sworn to destroy Israel by whatever means it possibly can. It does sponsor terrorism, and it is a very aggressive enemy. We cannot afford it to have a nuclear power, which, as you state, always starts by generating electricity. Why is the Biden administration falling for this rhetoric coming out of the Iranian administration?
Yeah. Well, you're right. It is different to what China tries to do to us, because the Iranian nuclear program is completely illegal. But the Biden administration sees this JCPOA nuclear agreement as a way of stopping Iran becoming nuclear. Iran has been basically bullying the Biden regime. Donald Trump initiated a very strong and quite successful sanctions program against Iran. Iran wants that lifted, and so it's been breaching the JCPOA in all sorts of ways to try and pressure Biden to reinitiate the agreement by doing things like ramping up enrichment to 20% when it's only allowed to be 3.5%, vastly increasing the quantities, the quality of the centrifuges and so on. So what Biden is looking at doing is trying to get back into the agreement by saying if Iran returns to compliance with the agreement, then the sanctions will be lifted. And then what Biden wants to do after that is try and renegotiate a stronger agreement that stops Iran becoming nuclear and looks at its other activities. The problem with that is once you lift the sanctions, you've got rid of all your leverage. So why on earth would Iran want to renegotiate a stronger treaty when there's absolutely no benefit for it in doing so? So what Biden should be doing is saying you return to compliance, you agree with a stronger agreement, and then we'll start looking at lifting the sanctions.
But you have to admit, though, that what's happened in the past 4 years, pre the Biden administration, in the Middle East has been spectacularly successful. I mean, more peace pacts have been agreed, or diplomatic normality with Israel than ever before. We've seen a lowering of the tensions in many countries and the disputes that are going on. We've seen Syria basically end. Why would you undo something that seems to have worked so well? What possible rationale can there be to try and re-inflame tension there?
Well, I wouldn't say Syria ended particularly well. I mean, it sort of ended because Russia and Iran were so bloodthirsty that they basically crushed the opposition, and that was due to the weakness in the Obama administration in letting that happen, unfortunately. The Abraham Accords, where Israel has made peace with Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates and Sudan and Morocco, were completely unexpected and unprecedented and a fantastic development. And what they did was show that the Palestinians don't hold the key to peace in the Middle East. Now, a lot of the Biden administration people came up through the Obama administration, and their mantra almost was that peace in the Middle East has to come through the Palestinians. So they're quite interested in reinitiating the two-state peace process, even though the Palestinians have shown that they have actually very little interest in doing it. And in doing so, they're actually rearming the Palestinians, if you like, re-empowering the Palestinians, where the Abraham Accords actually forced the Palestinians to look at a different strategy because their recalcitrance and continuing to say no just was proven not to be working. And they always thought time was on their side, and it proved to them that time wasn't on their side. So I agree with you. Why would the Biden administration want to take something that was working and basically turf it? And one of the reasons, I guess, is that because Trump was regarded as such an anathema to everything that's good about America by the Democrats, the knee-jerk reaction almost is to undo the things that he did. So he sidelined the Palestinians. Biden wants to re-engage with them. He sidelined the Iranians. Biden wants to re-engage with them. He was friends with the Saudis. Biden is sidelining the Saudis for some good reasons, but also, he needs to look at strategically what's best for America.
It appears that he wants to make all of these changes while there's other things escalating around the world in the hope that no one will notice. But we here at Sky News have, and we know that your organisation has as well. I want to thank you for joining me on the Bolt Report tonight. I really appreciate your insight.